So foremost, I would like to thank Wiley for inviting me to be the speaker for this webinar. The topic of my talk is embracing technology in course design, building the foundation for institutions of tomorrow. So the main goal of this presentation is actually to shed light on how we rationalize our choice of technology in the face of the different options that we have right now because of the pandemic. So because of this pandemic, we opened doors for different options in delivering content and assessment in different delivery modes in class or in a course. Next slide, please. So educational technology can be defined as any tool that can be used to help improve teaching and learning. So teaching in the sense that we are using technology to effectively deliver content and assessment as instructors and facilitators in a class. When you say improve learning, there is only one meaning, and that is we would like our students to demonstrate the outcomes in a course. So if the educational technology will lend a hand in improving our delivery of content and assessment and improve the demonstration of course outcomes, therefore it is an effective educational technology. Next slide, please. Now, in the face of the pandemic, we haphazardly or we hasten our deployment of different options just to cope with our classes during this time. And so if we're going to make a long-term projection of what will be the future after the pandemic, then the pandemic forces us to implement and consider these options of the delivery even we do not want it. No? So right now, of course, we have three options in delivering content. Face-to-face, which is not possible right now, or on-site. So this is the classical way of delivering content. We have synchronous online. So it means that you use an online mode in delivering content and assessment. And but then it is the students actually participate in real time, but they can participate anywhere. And of course, you have asynchronous online, wherein content are delivered anytime, and the students can actually interface with the content anytime, and they can actually facilitate the learning anywhere. So it's an ubiquitous way of delivering content. So these are the different delivery modes open for us in delivering a class, okay? So a lesson or a class. So we, after the pandemic, we have now options in choosing and blending these delivery modes. Next slide, please. On the point of view of a course, as facilitators and faculty members, we have now a myriad of options on how we deliver content of a course in the future. Okay. Number one is blended. So when you say blended, for example, in a semester, you have 15 weeks and 3 class meetings every week. So you have a total of 45 class sessions in a semester. If majority of the way you are going to deliver content is face-to-face, then it's considered blended. When you add, aside from face-to-face, synchronous online and asynchronous online. In blended mode of course delivery, majority of the delivery mode is actually done via face-to-face. So maybe after the pandemic, majority of us are actually doing blended. No? Now that we have experience in doing online, we can actually sprinkle our courses with synchronous online and asynchronous online delivery, plus majority is face-to-face mode. There is also, if there is an almost equal mix or not equal mix, but a good mix of face-to-face and synchronous online, then it's called blended synchronous course delivery. A particular course can also be fully online. However, the faculty or the facilitator can mix both synchronous and asynchronous online. So there will be some days wherein you are doing synchronous lectures, online lectures, and there will be days wherein you tell your students to connect with the materials using asynchronous online in your LMS. This is called dichronous online. And if, for example, the course is 100% asynchronous, like for example, in the way content are delivered in MOOCs, like Coursera or edX, then it's called an asynchronous online delivery. Now, there is what you call as a course delivery called HyPlex, okay? So many countries, even before the pandemic, actually implemented already HyPlex. So what is HyPlex? HyPlex means that the lecture is being done by the professor in a face-to-face mode. However, students can actually have the option to attend the class on-site, meaning in campus, or just attend the class via online. So in this particular kind of delivery, the students will have the option to join the class in campus or join via online, whether synchronously by streaming or asynchronously by viewing the recordings of the lecture afterwards. So this is called HyPlex, no? And in other international universities, some of them are already implementing this pre-pandemic for their professorial classes. So, for example, you have a very large class, okay? Then you do not demand your students to attend on-site every time. They can just choose, no? Of course, in these professorial lectures, the recitation classes are required to be face-to-face. And the students must attend on-site these recitation classes. But the professorial lectures, the students are given option to attend via streaming, via asynchronous viewing of the recordings, or on-site participation. This is called HyPlex. Next slide, please. So in the context of all of these ways that we have now, no, in deploying different modes of delivering content in a class and in a course, what we should remember is that we should facilitate learning and teaching by adopting educational technology. And we should use this in whatever mode of class delivery and in whatever course mode of delivery. Next slide, please. Now, what is the role of technology and teaching and learning? So I mentioned already the main goals of using technology in educational technology in teaching and learning. But here are some more detailed reasons on why we use technology in teaching and learning. Number one is, as mentioned, to improve the effectivity of delivery of content by the teachers. Number two, to improve the student learning performances, meaning when you say improvement of student learning performances, it only means that we would like that the students will successfully demonstrate the course outcomes. Now, number three is make learning experience more enjoyable. No? So we would like to pepper our delivery by using technology so that students will also enjoy the journey or the teaching experience in a particular class or course. So it makes them enjoyable by using technology. So our students now are very technology savvy. They are digital natives. And so it is expected of us to come up with different pedagogies in order that the learning experience be more interesting to them. Number four is it actually promotes So the next one is promote student agency or autonomy, by using devices, gadgets, software, and technology. The student will actually take care of his learning, and this will promote his confidence in doing whatever we assign to the student, and actually promote student agency or autonomy. And that is actually very important, especially if you're doing an online class or an online course. Um, the next one is it prepares students for the 21st century. We should know by now that most industries use advanced software and technology in their businesses. And so we should expect that the practice of the profession are rich in the use of technology. And so what better way to prepare our students for the practice of the profession by using technology, and if possible, the technology now being used by the industry. So that is actually an authentic way of delivering content to them, because we are already simulating what will they do when they are practicing already the profession. The next one is empower educators to efficiently personalize learning with access to data, content, and the cloud. No? By using, for example, LMS, and sometimes if you are using an AI-based software or adaptive learning tools, then the learning now is personalized. So without actually spending so much time doing a one-on-one tutorial to our students, we can actually use the current technology to simulate that kind of experience or service to our students. The next one is it helps educators create blended learning environment. No? By using LMS, as I mentioned at the beginning, we can now choose. Before, we have only one choice, and that is go to the classroom and deliver the lecture and deliver the assessment there. But because of technology and because of these options of online mode, we can now implement live learning, we can now implement online assessment, and other things. No, we can actually run our imagination to enrich our options in delivering content. We can even gamify a particular activity using games, which are sometimes already embedded in authoring tools. No, when you develop online content. It also helps to implement live learning. No? So I've said earlier that if you upload your materials ahead of time, and then you ask the students to already dive into the material ahead of the class, then you have a better time management in the class. You don't need to repeat so much from the top the lecture, but you can spend the time in the classroom in hand-holding activities and clarificatory questions. No? So you only need to repeat those things that are vague to the students after they have read the material. No? There is actually an accepted way, an accepted concept in education that you will only receive the aha moment in learning when you already seen the material and you incompletely understand that. And in the classroom, all of a sudden, the teacher clarified everything to you. That is an aha moment. And PLIF learning actually helps us in getting all of these experiences like aha moments in learning. Now, finally, it gives education access to real-time feedback through digital formative and summative assessments and data. No? So for example, if you're using clickers, then immediately uh, uh, students can participate in a particular question, and immediately you have a feedback whether they understood a simple concept or not. Unlike the typical recitation, wherein some students are very shy to participate, using clicker technology, everyone can participate, and immediately the faculty has an immediate and automatic feedback whether a particular item in a lesson is understood or not. So that actually helps already the teachers adjust how to clarify and emphasize things in his or her lecture. So these are some of the roles of technology in our current teaching and learning environments. Next slide, please. Okay, when you are developing a course, whether the course is to be delivered blended or it can be fully online like you are doing instructional design, okay? In a typical face-to-face or blended delivery type of mode, then you're only concerned with how to constructively align. No? If you're familiar with outcomes-based teaching and learning, you would like constructive alignment of your course outcomes, your teaching and learning activities, and your assessments. Of course, in aligning the course outcomes, the teaching and learning activities, and the assessment, you also align the topics that you're going to discuss in the course. Now, engagement and feedback in a blended or face-to-face delivery is very easy for us, no? Because you can immediately engage your students in the classroom, no? By a variety of ways. Because it's live, okay? And they can participate on site, no? And the feedback is immediate, no? So you can actually correct a student of his or her mistakes, and you can actually emphasize matters that are not understood by everyone. So engagement is not really a problem if you are doing a face-to-face delivery. However, if you're doing online delivery in some of your classes or in your courses, then engagement and feedback is something that you need to plan, okay? So you need to implement engagement activities, especially in asynchronous online delivery, because it must be an intended engagement activity. No? I will enumerate some of the engagement activities. And then also how you are going to give feedbacks. Of course, if you have LMS, it's very easy because the features of engagement and feedback are already there in your learning management system. So these are actually the aspects of course design and instructional design. Now, one very important thing to emphasize here is that though you are implementing your class or course in whatever mode, no, blended online, synchronous online, disynchronous, asynchronous, or hyplex, one important thing that we should not forget is everything is actually based on the achievement of outcomes. So regardless of the mode that you are using in a class or in a course, you should never forget that the main goal of a faculty is for the students to successfully demonstrate the outcomes. So it might be sometimes challenging in an asynchronous online delivery, but then you have to be very creative on how you will measure performances and making sure that students achieve their enabling outcomes and terminal outcomes. No? When I actually did a training on instructional design and technology, one thing that I got from that training is that it also helps us to think that in a particular course, while we have enabling outcomes or course outcomes, we should also think of one terminal outcome. So what is that one outcome that we want the student to demonstrate at the end of the course? If you can state it to yourself, what is the terminal outcomes, then it clarifies everything in the course. It clarifies your objectives, learning objectives, and how you are going to help your students demonstrate that one terminal outcomes. Of course, that terminal outcomes are supported by enabling outcomes. Okay, next slide, please. Now, let me just try to make some inventory of what we are going to use in this different mode. So for example, in a face-to-face mode, in the delivery of content, we can use any of the devices, no, smartphones, smart boards, no, and tablets, no. So you can actually implement using all of this, no, and be open-minded and creative on how to use this inside the classroom. Of course, in presentation, we are familiar with PowerPoint, Keynote, Google Slide, and we actually use overhead projectors, no, to project our PowerPoint presentation. And sometimes we have television inside the classroom instead of an overhead projector, we use TV, no, to project our lectures. And of course, if there are calculation activities, then we use calculator apps in smartphone or tablet. And of course, if you're implementing a high-plex mode, you need a lecture capture system. So a lecture capture system involves cameras and software and microphones for the faculty so that the actual lecture of the faculty inside the classroom can be recorded and can be seen by the students who opt to just see the recording and not attend on site. With regard to engagement, of course, we're familiar with clicker technology. And of course, in a computer lab setting, engagement is often done by using a software installed in the computer lab. And of course, assessment, if it is a face-to-face delivery, we don't use any technology. We just use an on-site delivery of assessment, no? Because maybe because of experience, no, if we try to use technology inside the classroom for our quizzes, it's not really a very good way of ensuring academic integrity for the exam. Next slide. So if you have synchronous online, for the delivery of content, it's necessary that you must have an LMS. So it can be Blackboard, Canvas, Google Classroom, Moodle. Some of these are free, some of them are proprietary. So it's not actually anymore an excuse that you do not have budget for an LMS because there are a lot of options already of LMS that are free. So you can begin adapting a particular LMS. Of course, it's expected that for the free LMS, the features are limited compared to the proprietary LMS products. If you're doing asynchronous online, you need a conferencing tool, no, like Zoom, WebEx, Google Meet, Teams, Engagely, and of course, you need internet access. And for presentation, I already identified that. For engagement, using synchronous online, you can also implement clicker technology and in implementing engagement, no, during a synchronous online class. And for assessment, well, if you have an LMS, especially proprietary LMS, there are already different exam formats available in your LMS. However, there is a problem on the maintenance of exam integrity in an online assessment. So maybe you can create policies on how to minimize them, like for example, requiring students to open their cameras during the exam, or using an online assessment software to prevent cheating, for example, Proctorio or ProctorU or Respondus Lockdown browser. They can also, if you have a budget, you can also subscribe to a proctoring service, like for example, HonorLac. And of course, for all written activities, you can use a plagiarism check like Turnitin to assess whether the students have violated plagiarism. So these are some of the technologies you use in asynchronous online. The next slide is about asynchronous online. Next slide, please. So in an asynchronous online, there are now other technologies that are required, okay? So for delivery of content, it's not anymore that you are only going to use LMS. You need now to develop your learning materials. So the learning materials may be video, audio, or text. Okay, so for video, you need video development tools. No, you need digital camera, microphone. You may use a screencasting software like OBS, like QuickTime, Screencast-O-Matic, or Camtasia. Okay, OBS is free, but Camtasia is proprietary. Okay, so a screencasting software will allow us to record our screen of our desktop or laptop. So that will capture and create the video. Of course, after recording your video by screencasting or by digital camera, then you need now to video edit, because along the way you committed some mistakes and you would like also to improve the quality of your video by, for example, inserting background music, inserting transitions, inserting an opening slide and a closing slide. And therefore, you need a video editing software like Adobe Premiere, iMovie for Apple products. There are also a lot now, but then these are the important video editing software. And of course, sometimes you need to animate things, no? So you can have Animaker to, create a very simple animated slides, okay? Or you can also use Animaker sound in order for you to use other voice other than yourself. So if you want to dub your recording other than your own voice, then you can use also an Animaker sound or similar software. So there's a lot already available. You just have to identify which is appropriate for you, for your the type of your desktop or laptop, the operating system, and of course, your available budget. Now, if you do not have, for example, an LMS, okay, and then you will still need to develop a training module or a module, then you can use an authoring tool, no? Like, for example, iSpring, Articulate 360, or EdApp. So you can actually develop a module without the use of an LMS to upload materials by using these authoring tools. So immediately, you just give the link of your published modules to your students, and they can participate as if they are already participating in an LMS. So, however, although EdApp is free, iSpring and Articulate 360 are expensive. Okay, the next, so for example, in the future, you would like to develop a training module, and then you do not like the participants to access your LMS for whatever reason, then you can just use an authoring tool for that. And the same experience will be implemented in that particular course. You can also develop infographics and posters that are very appealing to their students, and you need a graphic software like Canva. So the beauty of Canva is it's for free. However, there's limitation. But then if you need to have full access to the features, then you need to subscribe. Now, the beauty of Canva is that there are free available templates in doing infographics and doing posters or whatever, even PowerPoint slides. And then the available designs are already inside Canva. So the photographs and design, graphic design are already there for your own choosing. Okay. Of course, not everything is for free. Then, of course, I already mentioned presentation. And then, of course, in an asynchronous mode, especially if you're delivering a laboratory course, you need software that is available in the cloud. So, or you need a VPN in order for the student to access your software in the campus. So you need either a VPN service or cloud access for your software in an asynchronous mode, okay, if it is laboratory. And then, as mentioned, engagement can be done by clicker. You can implement games, and then, of course, you need LMS. And assessment, I mentioned this already, no? Everything is the same with synchronous online. Next slide, please. So there are also other technologies not mentioned, like for example, educational apps, no, that can be found in Google Play and in Apple Store. So you can, most basic education are already taking advantage of these educational apps. Then of course, programming languages for simulation activities and data acquisition. Of course, e-textbooks, like for example, available in Wiley, Cengage, McGraw, and which I will discuss at the latter part of this presentation. Research databases for your thesis and research of your students, like Scopus, Science Direct, the journals in American Computing Machinery, Association of Computing Machinery, sorry, ACM, American Chemical Society, Physics Review, ASM, Association, American Society of Mechanical Engineers, IEEE, ASCE, AICH, etc. So all of these are available. Of course, it is in order for you to access the full text, you need subscription. Otherwise, you can only access the abstract. Of course, there are also full text research articles available in the internet, like for example, those in PubMed. However, most of these publications are in the field of biology and allied health. And of course, there are a variety of open software available in the internet and open educational resources which we can use for free. So we just have to look for this that can be useful for us. Next slide, please. I mentioned earlier that engagement is sometimes very challenging in an online delivery, especially in an asynchronous online delivery. So again, engagement activity can just be as simple as short knowledge check, which can be implemented in the different exam formats in your LMS. You can actually deploy a discussion board per week. No, you post questions in the discussion board, or you ask students to give opinions on certain questions or ideas, and then that is already a form of engagement, no? So the suggestion is actually asynchronous online instructional design. You should post one engagement activity per week. And of course, one type of engagement activity, whether in face-to-face or online mode, is actually if you ask your student to do a reflection or journal. So, and then you have a rubrics on how to grade the reflection or journal. Next slide, please. Okay, so how are we going to take advantage or leverage technology and digital resources in our course design? Okay, number one, make sure the technology will contribute to the demonstration of outcomes. So we do not use technology for technology's sake. We have to be very granular in adopting technology, whether that technology is constructively aligned with the action verbs in our course outcomes. Okay, number two, promote engagement with students using technology. So you will be surprised that our students right now will better engage in the learning materials through technology. And also, you can use technology to enhance collaboration among students and collaboration between students and the instructor or the faculty. So it will enhance collaboration. So you can also think of engagement activities and collaboration activities that will use technology. So for example, if you're using Zoom, there are breakout classes or sessions that you can design so that students can talk to one another and then go back to the main room. So that is a collaboration and engagement activity, which is done through technology. You can also foster active discussion, and active discussion is not necessarily orally done. It can be through a discussion board. You can enhance your presentation and visualization by using images, videos, sounds into your typical PowerPoint presentation, which is predominantly text. You can promote student feedback using technology. And this is somewhat automatic if you have an LMS, because there are certain features that the students will immediately see the scores and some comments in some exam formats in your LMS. And then the practice of modern tools, which is used already in the practice of the profession. So if you adapt that in your class, then rest assured that your students will be ready by the time they are actually practicing their profession. It also you should also use technology to improve communication among students and faculty and facilitators, no? So maybe you can use FB Messenger, or you can use Viber, you can use Teams, or any other method of messaging. In order, there will be promotion of communication after class among students and faculty members. And of course, it promotes retention and reinforcement of learning. When you try to record your lecture, upload the video to your LMS, and the students are given access to view it multiple times after the lecture, then students who are not very clear on your lecture during that time of your lecture will have opportunities, multiple opportunities, to go back to the lecture, clarify his understanding, and reinforce learning. So technology will promote reinforcement of learning and retention by continuously accessing these materials that will be available for them. Next slide. Now, this is I would like to share in the last few minutes of my presentation about Mapua, and one of the things that we find very important for us, no, especially in dealing with this delivery of content and courses during pandemic, is actually our early adoption of the e-text solutions, no, from Wiley. So we call this METIS, or Mapua e-text Infinity Solution. So currently, our students are capable of accessing 17,000 Wiley ebooks via Vital Search Bridge, which is actually connected to our LMS Blackboard. So students are very easily download up to 50 books at a time, e-text books at a time, from the 17,000 options. Then, of course, there are some courses wherein there is support for the faculty and for the students, and this is called the Wiley Plus, or the digital solution. So currently we have 128 courses that have access to this Wiley, no, not courses, 128 books in Wiley with a Wiley Plus digital solution support, no? And also 1,075 book companion site. Next slide, please. So the use of Wiley e-textbooks, no, we can readily implement PLIF learning, because the students can download the book and we can just assign reading assignments anytime, no? And before the class, they can already read the material ahead of time. We can assign reading assignments after class. We can, all of these books are accessible through a book reader called Bookshelf. Okay, so in that book reader platform, there is also an accessibility feature for text-to-speech capability. So for those people who have problems in their sight, they can actually just hear the text, the oral reading of the material using text-to-speech capability of Bookshelf. And of course, one thing that is very important for us is the economics of adopting this thing, no? Because we ask our students to pay a fixed fee, 1,000 pesos per term, to access all of the 17,000 books, okay? And that 1,000 pesos is very, very way low to the cost of one hardbound textbook that they need to buy. So in terms of economics, when we actually explain this to the parents, they are welcoming to this idea, because it's actually you are accessing so many books, 17,000, and at the same time, you're only paying so little for that, no? Instead of requiring textbooks for each course. Next slide. Okay, for Wiley Plus, no, it helps our faculty and our students, the faculty in developing lectures, assignment, and exams because there are a lot of materials already there. And the materials can be interactive activities, available videos, and applets. So the faculty doesn't need anymore to develop videos and learning materials. No, they just actually adapt the learning materials available in Wiley Plus if the Wiley Plus is available for that particular textbook. So it's it's a very good engagement activity for students, especially dealing in courses that are abstract sometimes, no, like mathematics, physics. It gives them a very clear way of understanding the principles and the implications of governing equations. Next slide. In the book companion, 1,000 plus sites for book companion, these are the resources available: instructor solution manual, test bank, interactive lecture questions, reading quiz questions, image gallery, concept simulation, answer to end of chapter problems and question, lecture PowerPoint. There are already available lecture PowerPoint. So the faculty just need to edit and choose which slides to be used so they can create their own decks. And of course, the interactive learningware. So it's very a good support for faculty members, no? So they don't need to develop all of these materials, no? If they have access to these support materials. Next slide, please. So would just like to share to you that we have a very short study conducted sometime in 2016, no, on the use of Wiley Plus in mathematics. And this study was conducted by Dr. Dante Silva. I believe Dr. Silva is here, no, in this webinar. So approximately there are 9,000 students enrolled in mathematics department in a year, no, in an academic year. And the educational program spans across 9 mathematics courses, no. Early on, starting in 2012, no, the Department of Mathematics already adopted some books from Wiley that have Wiley Plus support. So they are already experienced in how to optimize the use of Wiley Plus as early as 2012. However, no, Mapua decided to engage in METIS, so more materials became available to all of us. And as we progressed the use of Wiley Plus through the years, students on the average exceeded 8% from the previous year. Actually, 2016 data to compared to 2015 data. No? Next slide, please. So Dr. Silva conducted a very short controlled experiment on comparing implementing differential equations to 2 sections of students enrolled in this course. And one is just using a traditional direct lecture teaching method, and the other one is using Wiley Plus. And it's very clear from this result that Wiley Plus really helped in terms of student performances compared to the traditional direct lecture training method. Next slide, please. So these are some of the comments of our faculty in the Department of Mathematics on using Wiley Plus and e-text and the book companion. No? Instructors can quickly organize learning activities, manage student collaboration, and customize their course. So imagine you have an armory of these options, then it's very easy for you to design a lecture or an assessment to different groups of people. Next is with visual reports, it's easy for both students and instructors to gauge problem areas and act on what's most important. Next slide. Videos, applets, and simulations are available for selected titles to enhance students' learning experience. And so it's also a way, no, to make learning more personalized, no? by deploying adaptively this type of materials from Wiley Plus. And then instructors assess the real-time proficiency of each student to inform teaching decisions. Students always know what they need to work on. So as I said earlier, no, because of the myriad of learning materials available, the faculty can easily tune the material to be deployed to different sections in a particular course. Next slide. As far as the students, they see the use of Wiley Plus as the improvement of engagement to them. Students responded positively towards working with the LMS much more than the regular classroom lecture method. The evaluation of the study revealed that the students find the lessons less overwhelming because they were self-paced. Next slide. And then there's attention and interest were sustained throughout the LMS now because there are well-laid figures, clear illustration, easily understood language, self-paced activities, especially in the online classes deployed by Dr. Silva. Immediate feedback prompted at the end of each exercise or problem. Next slide. And activities provide meaningful interaction with students because of the feedback mechanism. Next slide. So with regard to the use of Wiley eText, this is our Mapua data for different academic years and different months. So you can see that it's constantly increasing in terms of activations of e-textbooks in the last 3 academic years. Next slide. And then this is the Wiley Plus engagement in the undergraduate level. Okay, comparing 3 different quarters in academic year 2018-2019, all second quarter. So this is a year-on-year comparison of all second quarters of 2018, 2019, 2019, 2020, and 2020, 2021. And you can see there is an increase in the Wiley Plus engagement. Next slide. So this is my final slide and final message. We use and adapt technology to improve achievement of student outcomes, both enabling and terminal course outcomes. No? So the emphasis must be, you must use technology that will promote and improve the achievement of student outcomes. So we use and adapt technology to improve learning experience, to make it more enjoyable for our current students, making it more interesting and fun. So the course delivery doesn't have to be boring and dragging. It can be interesting and it can be fun. So to rationalize, we go back to the action verb, which is the important thing in the course outcomes. So you go back to the verb and ask yourselves, what educational technology should I use in order to help my students achieve the course outcomes? When you answer this question granularly, then you are on your way in helping your students demonstrating the course outcomes in your courses. Thank you very much for listening.
Well, thank you, Dr. Doma. Thank you for the very thorough and insightful presentation. I'm sure the attendees who are here with us today this morning have had many great takeaways from this session. And when it comes to embracing technology and applying it, they definitely have a lot of key takeaways that they can apply at their respective institution, and it's very timely right now in the current landscape. So now we have come to our question and answer session. We are still accepting questions. So for attendees we have with us this morning, please do post your question here so that we can address them during this part of the session. So Dr. Doma, we have some questions ahead of us prepared for you. So, thank you for sharing the best practice and digital strategy adopted by Mapua University. We can see that, many of this, especially the synchronous and asynchronous, came in really handy in time during the pandemic. So the question for you is that in the near future, when schools can finally be fully reopened, how do you think education in general will change? In other words, how would it emerge stronger than it was before COVID-19?
Okay, I believe that because of this almost more than 1.5 years of experience in pandemic, we are not going to look on how we are going to deliver content and assessment to our students the same way as before. And so while majority of our courses will go back to face-to-face delivery mode, I'm very sure that most of us at least will implement a blended mode of delivery to our courses. And so the experience that we learned this time will be very helpful for us in delivering blended mode of teaching. And so blended mode of teaching can be successfully implemented by the use of technology. So I believe that many of the things that we are implementing right now will still remain after the pandemic. It may not be the dominant mode, but it will be always there. And of course, for a limited part or limited number of courses and students, some students will opt to join an online delivery mode, whether synchronously or asynchronously, and universities will actually be more knowledgeable now in implementing different options to their students. Because at the end of the day, we would like our students to be happy in their educational learning experience. And so, there are attending problems in the Philippines, especially in National Capital Region, like traffic, like that, no? And so therefore, some of these can be solved if content will be available to students asynchronously or synchronously using technology. Though I believe that the dominant mode will still be face-to-face.
Thank you, Dr. Doma. We have a question from Antonino, and his question or her question is, what? Oh, so sorry. That is, she's thanking you for the best practice and experience. My apologies. I think we have a question for Tatum. The question is, can you explain more about dichronous learning and the tools behind it?
Okay, so when you say dichronous, no, I actually thought about this, no, because prior to the pandemic, no, some of the courses in mathematics in Mapua are already implemented via fully online mode, no. So what we did was actually to give options to some of our students to choose sections that are either blended or online, fully online, meaning they are not going to go to the campus to hear the lecture. But in this fully online mode, from time to time, the faculty will meet the students, no, especially for the assessment. So it's a modified fully online delivery, no? All the courses, all the content are delivered online, asynchronously or synchronously. However, exams must be conducted in campus, or sometimes hand-holding activities like clarificatory questions, additional problem sets can be done on site. No? So this is so, and then I asked myself, how am I going to distinguish this kind of mode, fully online, but a mixture of synchronous and asynchronous, to a fully asynchronous fully online? Because right now we are implementing also courses that are fully asynchronous online. So I searched the term for this, and there's a term, and this is called dichronous online. So in a dichronous online, let us say you have 45 sessions in a course in a semester. You decided that, let us say, out of the 45, 25 will be done synchronously, meaning the faculty will go to use a conference tool and deliver the lecture at the same time the students are participating that. Okay, of course, the faculty can record the video of the lecture, but then it's a synchronous delivery of content. So for the 25 sessions. So this is pre-planned and it's pre-announced. And then for the rest of the 20 sessions, the faculty will just tell the students, oh, we are not going to have any synchronous lectures, all the videos and other reading materials are already uploaded in the LMS. So you need to view the lectures, the video lectures, in your own time and in your own pace. This type of delivery is called dichronous online.
Thank you, Dr. Doma. We have another question from Dr. Maria. What challenges did Mapua University experience when you transitioned to the different teaching modes?
Okay, so to tell you honestly, no, because we have a pre-adoption of some of these modalities, no, prior to the pandemic, no. For example, I mentioned to you that we already adopted way back in 2012 digital e-textbooks and Wiley Plus support, and then we have LMS as early as 2000 something. Okay, so and then we already trained faculty members proactively on how to deploy blended type of course delivery. So to tell you honestly, no, when when the lockdown was announced last March of 2020, we do not have a major problem in shifting from a typical face-to-face delivery mode to a 100% fully online mode because our faculty members are already attuned with this delivery mode. The main challenge that we encountered in this fully online delivery is actually on how we are going to maintain the integrity of the exam. Because as I mentioned earlier, though we are implementing fully online courses prior to the pandemic, we made it a point that our exams are done face-to-face. So we can assure ourselves that the integrity of exams are intact. So we made different policies and tweaking on how to minimize the cheating and plagiarism in a fully online delivery mode. So basically, that's our biggest problem we encountered. And also, that second pala, there's another one pala, is that though we are implementing fully online courses prior to the pandemic, we did not implement a fully online delivery in our laboratory classes. So those are two main difficult problems we face in delivering laboratory classes in fully online and maintaining the integrity of assessments.
Thank you, Dr. Doma. We have perhaps one last question. The question is, what are the top 3 indicators that you think would help show that the faculty have successfully used technology in the classroom or in the digital delivery mode in a way that is conducive to students' learning? So what are your top 3 indicators that you think our attendees should take away for them to address and assess that the use of technology was done in a way that is conducive to student learning?
Okay. In whatever mode that we are going to use in the future, and whether we are going to use technology or not, no. So I only have one thing to say about that question and not 3, no. The bottom line in all of these things is actually the demonstration of student outcomes. So if you use technology and if the faculty use the technology and somehow it improves the number of students who successfully demonstrated a particular course outcome in a standard that is acceptable to the industry, to the university, and to the other people, okay, meaning you don't lower down the standard, but then the students achieve the demonstration of that outcome at a particular acceptable standard, meaning the student will pass board exam, will be employed after graduation, etc. Okay. If you can only do that, then that is the most important parameter that the faculty has successfully implemented and adopted a technology in his or her course. So the bottom line is always student performances. It's a learner-centered approach. It's not about the teacher, the objectives of the teacher, though they are important, but that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that the the demonstration of student outcomes at the end of a course. And how do you know that your students demonstrate the outcomes? They were able to demonstrate the action verb based on a certain standard. So that's the only parameter that you need to find. Although your objectives may be noble as a faculty, if all of those things that you plan and you use are not effective for the students to achieve the outcomes, then you need to rethink and replan again and revise your methods so that in the next cycle you will be more successful.